I think I would like to give a big round of applause to the people in that area. In the, Fort Portal took over as a city and said, you know what, we have to do this. But not all the districts in that area were able to come together to say, this is what we're going to do. But Fort Portal City in itself picked up that, and you can see what has happened. The kingdom has decided that we need something that happens here annually. And that was central government giving a punch to start something. I never saw it happening in other, sector, in other region of the country. Maybe it will happen. But in West Africa, these things are happening. Governments actually pay a lot of attention to, creative arts. I want to take you to another very critical aspect of, what we call cross-sectoral thinking in the creation of, an innovative workforce, like what we're seeing right now. There is a need to invest in the workforce and, for it to have a capable meaning and to be able to meet the challenges and requirements of a rapidly evolving, post-industrial knowledge. We're moving away from those days where, a person you only needed to run machines and that's it. Very few people are making these machines, and then many of us are just here to run the machines. But we're seeing that a more industrial knowledge-based economy that values the non-cognitive skills as much as the technical cognitive. Welcome to the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Okila, and of course my guest this morning in the studio is the one and only Geoffrey Ekongot, as we know him. And of course we're supposed to be joined by one Faisal Kiwewa from Bayimba. Faisal is still on his way and is definitely going to be joining us on the program. Jeff, welcome back to the Creative Industry Talk. How are you doing? How have you been?
I'm good, Eddie. Thank you very much for hosting me once again.
You're welcome, and it's been a while. So today's topic, Jeff, takes us back to discussing the issues that are very pertinent to you and me, issues of creativity. And I want the team to just put that topic up there so that we can just have everybody as part of the conversation. We're talking about the cultural and creative industry in Uganda. But more especially, we want to unleash the transformative power of culture and creativity for the local and cross-border development. This conversation is heavily inspired by the New Africa-France Summit. The French people are saying we have a new relationship we're forging going forward. And the relationship we have now, it's an equal 50-50 relationship where it's no longer we are the only superpower, we give you everything you just received. They're saying, no, we're going to do trade with you. And a lot of money has been, earmarked for creative industry. And COVID-19 brought, creativity to the forefront of many things. And I just want to say this, that the cultural creative, industry have gained a lot of recognition in our economy in the recent times, and its contribution in terms of, output value and job creation has been heavily recognized all across the world. The CCIs, as we call them, have built around the concept of creativity. Most companies are now becoming more creative to try and put these things together, which actually is closely related to the concept of innovation. That every single person out there is now very innovative, every company out there is very innovative. That said, Jeff, it brings us to a conversation today. First of all, marketing our culture and positioning our culture for this kind of, discussion that we're having today. What is your understanding of culture, and how can we best market it to suit the creativity that the industrial, economy is looking for at this point in time?
Thank you, Eddie. This is a very interesting opportunity that you mentioned about the New France-Africa relationship. Yeah. And I think it's a great opportunity for Uganda and Africa as a whole. And culture is about yesterday, today, and the future.
Yeah.
And it gives us an opportunity to share a bit of ourselves from the past and the present, and obviously the future.
Yeah.
And I am very excited about the new France-Africa relationship.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned whether this relationship is genuine. We're yet to find out.
Yeah.
A lot of usually such announcements can either be PR or some kind of rebrand of colonial power, former colonial powers.
Point of view, yes.
Yeah, but the question whether it's a real holistic rebrand which involves action or just face is something for us to find out.
Yeah.
And it will be a great opportunity for us to test this new relationship. Yeah. I think it's an opportunity for us to reposition in many ways. Yeah. Both on an individual level and as a country on a political level. Yeah. But for the creative industries, I think this is a huge opportunity. I hope they can set up systems and programs the way some other countries have already done. Like I see the US government has lots of programs in which they work closely with Ugandans. I think it will be a great opportunity to see real active programs that engage the creative industries, where we get to play and we get to work with them, and of course tap into what they have developed over the years using our resources and of course their resources.
Yes. Yes. Jeff, I want to just take you straight to, and then I want to read this out. I was doing a lot of research about this area, and of course we're talking about the cultural and creative industries in Uganda. And also, of course, in Africa. I mean, given the discussion the French is bringing right now, that is sparking a lot of, discussion around whether it is genuine or not. But there has been a lot of money pumped in the Francophone countries around creativity. They have developed so much. Faisal, Kiwewa, who is here to join us on the show, talked about last week. A lot of the theaters have been developed. A lot of the stages have been developed for, if you go to Francophone countries, they are way ahead of, with their heart, compared to the Anglophone countries that don't have. And so this presents a very good opportunity for us. But I want to just pick this from a discussion that happened this year when COVID-19 started in 2021. And our finding out is that the cultural and creative industry have gained a lot of recognition for their economic contribution in terms of output value and job creation. The creative industries are built around the concept of creativity, which is closely related to the concept of innovation. Creative industries are designed or distinguished by the technological and soft innovation. You're already doing this using the digital and the stuff you've been doing. That benefits not only the sector, but also the economy as a whole. The potential of creative industry and cultural industries must be recognized going forward in 2022. And we're in 2021, closing, of course, the year. As a must, the role of the soft innovation in triggering the industrial innovation rather than just the technological advancement needs to be recognized by government world over. We're talking about these things from this perspective. My question to you, Jeff, given the new Africa, France relationship talk, how can cross-sectoral collaboration between creative culture and creative industries, and other sectors of the economy be achieved in order for us to benefit out of this?
I would like to maybe take 2 steps back.
Yes.
We need to appreciate that a relationship is a two-way street.
Yeah.
And in appreciating that a relationship is a two-way street, we need to revisit what it has been in the past.
Yeah.
In the past, I think France has perceived our culture more from the angle of more like antiquities. like things from the past. That's why in their museums they had a lot of African art that was stolen from Africa.
Yes.
And they stopped at that. But Africa is alive and well from the past to the present. Is modern works going on. There's all the arts sector very vibrant. I think the key is now to move from that point. And what does it mean to move from that point? For example, on a government level, I would love to see the old approach of, for example, city twinning. Can we have a relationship between Paris and Kampala in a more structured way? Can we have a relationship between Jinja and other cities in Jinja, Mbale, with other cities in France? On that level, it brings, for example, cultural centers in different cities in France relating with cultural spaces in Uganda. That brings the local artists directly thinking of how to work with another local artist in another city in France. That means more activities that engage people in a more active manner. If the city of Kampala within the city authorities is planning activities with the city of Paris, and their calendar of activities includes activities where they engage us, that's more practical. We can start knowing, okay, beginning 2022, there's a festival in Paris, or there are 5 festivals where Ugandan artists have been booked to perform. And the same thing happening. There's French artists that we expect on our entertainment calendar. We have the Bayimba festival. Can we expect to see French artists participating there? That's a more realistic and practical way. When we talk about sharing creative and spaces and innovations from Ugandans and the French people, those guys have a lot of funding for say, startups. And there are a lot of innovators here who want to partner with innovators in France. Can we create some kind of bridge for that to happen? One of the biggest alternative spaces to the Silicon Valley is in France. There's the former rail station in France that was converted into a startup hub trying to rival Silicon Valley. Could be an opportunity where we could have innovators in Uganda being given space to incubate their businesses there. And instead of us working in silos, I think it would be nice to initiate programs that bridge these sorts of things immediately, so, you know, and I'm looking forward to seeing calls for applications to Ugandans participate in programs in France. I'm looking forward to seeing the same where French innovators or creative people, filmmakers, working with Ugandans to make films, to create music. Those sorts of things would be really a good start.
Okay. On that note, Jeff, do you think that from a Ugandan point of view, are we ready for that kind of innovation and collaborations? Have we been creating our work in line with that? Our industries here appreciating that the creative economies, the cultural and creative economies in Uganda are actually far more important to benefit that they can support? Do you see the sense of that from where you sit today?
That's a good question. I think readiness is a process. And what we need to do is to start to lay a foundation for that readiness. What does this readiness to collaborate mean? It means, one, to understand what the expectations of the French are in working with us. And it means also what the expectations of Ugandans are in working with the French, because if the relationships are being very loose, I think it starts with laying that foundation. The foundation means setting some sort of standards, setting some requirements, and making these known, and then getting to that stage where we actually get to collaborate. Okay.
I want to just take you straight, Jeff, to my next question. By connecting these creative sectors to other sectors of the local economy, like you've talked about, if the cities here, the municipalities here can start, first of all, interacting within ourselves. The Jinja interacts with Kampala, Kampala collaborate with the, you know, Lira, on Gulu, on Arua, and Barara, and you go to Fort Portal, like what we're seeing right now. If there is these collaborations happening, then the cities become an connecting these intersectors, you know, begin to give a lot more meaningful discussions before we even think about going to France or to interact with those in France. But my question, therefore, and the background I want to give is that by connecting these creative sectors to other sectors of the local, you know, economy and fostering the interactions between us, like you've talked about, or between them, a strong, you know, agglomerations of local connections and communication begins to, and interaction begins to work. But I have a question here, Jeff. This in return can eventually translate into local growth, like you've talked about, in development, and it will help us to move. But my question is, what can government locally here and internationally, or local government, do to encourage such collaborations going forward? Yes, you've talked about the intersection, but what can they do going forward? Because that has not been done. Very true.
Like I mentioned, the first step is to initiate some kind of structured programs. Mm-hmm. For example, I've worked in the art space for a while, and I've realized Ugandans, we tend to do things last minute.
Yeah.
And I've also observed that in Europe and the US, they plan festivals years in advance. And I've seen from our own festivals here, most times the planning space is very limited.
Yes.
If the government is committed and they are interested in making this happen, they need to start thinking way ahead. Our problem is most of our planning is structured around the financial years, but some of these large-scale projects in the art space can take 2 years to plan, 3 years to plan.
Yeah.
But it would be a good idea if there's, for example, dedicated departments to the cultural industries or the creative sector in each city council or municipality to initiate programs that then can be shared internationally. So that, for example, these kinds of new relationships with France, they could be able to interface with these programs and know, okay, the city of Mbale, for example, has an Mbalu Festival, and every year it happens on this date. And what opportunities is there for us? Do we need to send tourists there? Do they need to book? What accommodation slots are available in the city of Mbale? How many people can they host? How big is the festival? If we can host 10,000 people, should we be preparing for how many Ugandans are expected to be there? How many French people should we prepare to send to Mbale for that festival? Yeah. You see, this takes a lot of planning, and people don't like to come and then find they can't. They have no accommodation. They don't have enough places to eat. You know, these are things that the city needs to play a role in actively to help to facilitate, because this is the foundation of the art space. Every time you see a concert happening or any kind of festival, people have to sleep, people have to eat, flights will happen, security has to be there. This is not something that the people in the art space alone can handle. Yeah. The government is a very big player in this space in ensuring people's safety, in ensuring there's enough accommodation. That means motivating entrepreneurs to invest in the ecosystem. Yeah. So the key role of the government is to lay a foundation for the ecosystem in which the third parties can now play a role in. That's the whole essence. If they can be, if they can appreciate the wider picture, the ecosystem, and the role they have to play in the ecosystem, then they start on their part. Yeah. Then it's easier for the arts players to just do their part. Yeah. But most of us in the art space, if it's a crowd, we're ready to do something. Yeah. Yeah. But if we're ready to do something, and our customers are coming and they have nowhere to sleep, then that's a problem. Yeah. They have nowhere to eat, and then that's a problem. Yeah.
I want to pick that from a local point of view, Jeff. Just before we wind up this first part of the show and take a break, do you see the sense that the local authorities, the local leaders, the local government in such areas are actually interested in trying to do some of these things? I mean, we've seen just Fort Portal in recent times. There's been a a big thing that happened in Fort Portal, and I, reading from all the feedbacks and the outcomes, that the hotels were all fully booked. Everything was fully booked. There was no space, which means for a whole weekend, there was a good amount of contribution that came from, creative economy to the city of Fort Portal, and the local authorities there should be able to share this with other local authorities in the areas to say, you know what, you can harness this, and this brings in the income, it brings in it improves the economy of the area, but also it adds into the national basket when we're talking about this. Do you think that people who are in position of leadership in local government see this opportunity, or they don't? Because we can talk about it from the the central government point of thinking, but if the local government point of leadership is not thinking about this, is not welcoming this, then this cannot happen. What's your sense of that?
Like that event that you mentioned, this in Fort Portal City, should be a test of the pudding. Yeah. It should, imagine on the very first edition, the entire city is booked out. What will happen in the second or third one? So that means the city authorities should use that as an opportunity for city planning. And no, okay, imagine on the first one we were able to sell out. What about when more people pick interest? I mean, more people coming, will we be able to accommodate them? This is an opportunity for them to see the bigger picture. Yeah. And the individuals not playing their role because maybe sometimes they don't see it. Sometimes means it's not enough information. Yeah. But I think for us who are involved in the creative industries, we need to start sharing more information. What sort of information do the city authorities need to justify certain decisions? For example, they need to have projections on revenue. Yeah. Projections, for example, on how many jobs will be created by just a single event. What level of income? Can we be able to map out the monetization touch points across a single festival? Yeah. From the saloon lady who is going to prepare people going to the festival, yeah, to the Nenalongo who is serving porridge and katogo in the neighborhood, yeah, as people are heading to the festival, to all the taxis that will be busy trying to ferry people to this festival. There are hundreds of monetization touch points that can be mapped out to justify investment in that space. And if the city authorities are interested in understanding what these projections can be, they can engage the people in the arts sector. Mm-hmm. We're here, and there's so many of us out there planning. Events promoters know these things. They can engage them and involve them in their planning. I rarely see situations where the city authorities invite people in the art space to go and attend a city council meeting, yes, and offer input on planning for the creative space. They should do that more often. Yeah. If they believe that, for example, tourism is going to be a key factor, they need to involve the players in the tourism space, yeah, to come and inform them what the opportunities are and what they should do on their end. Yeah. I can't blame them sometimes when they don't make the right decisions because they don't understand the space, yeah, very well. But if they work with us, with those in the space, I think that's how we shall be able to build this into something meaningful. Wow.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you very much everybody out there following the Creative Industry Talk this morning or this afternoon, this evening, depending on which part of the world you're actually watching the program from. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Jeff and I possibly will be joined by Faisal Kiwewa. We'll continue the discussion on the question of, what role does art play in promoting our culture. If you're a cultural man, or if you have your culture out there, begin to think about it. And Jeff can also take your questions and, to be able to answer them if you have any. So please share with us far and wide. We are live on YouTube, on Twitter, and of course on our website. Please go there, subscribe, share far and wide. We'll be right back after this break. This is Creative Industry Talk. This relationship, this new direction from France, actually should be taken serious by the Africans.
Definitely. I think if the French were not really engaged and ready to, to create this new paradigm with all the young people in Africa, they wouldn't have invested so much into this whole conversation. I think what is important is really to recognize the fact that France has had a lot of trouble in Africa, given its Francophone territory in West Africa. And then it had also had a lot of disconnection from the Anglophone, the Russophone, and the Spanish-speaking African countries. So when you find the investments that France make in the Francophone Africa are not the same investments or opportunities that are in the Anglophone Africa and the Russophone Africa, when we talk about the Portuguese-speaking African countries like Mozambique and Angola. So they are realizing that, okay, if we have people in Africa, they're not only living in the Francophone African countries, but they're also living in the Anglophone countries. And I think the strategy here, this is my observation, is that it's not that it's going to be a direct government engagement with young people. No, I think that's why they brought in partners like INPay, which is an investment agency. They brought in like AFD, which is the French development agency. They brought in Organization of Institute Francophone countries. They brought in Institut Français. These are the gatekeepers. These are the people who are going to be dealing with us, the young people. And the conversations were about, okay, what is AFD doing? And for me, it was very interesting to find that we've known AFD as a development agency for France, but investing in big businesses, infrastructure, roads, government, and projects, but they had never thought about the creative industry. And for them to have this conversation, influenced by the French policies on how to engage with the new Africa, and also realizing that their politics has not worked, but the many young people now are taking over in Mali, in Gambia, they are realizing that these young people, they don't know what's going on with them. They need to get to tap into their knowledge and see what's going on in their head so that they can also understand them as well as support them.
Welcome back from that break. This is the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Eddie Okila, Jeff Ekongot in the studio from the Tarmac Digital Agency. Of course, there's a creative brain, the man who has been in the creative industry for a while, and he understands culture, he understands, the creative industry, and he is not just a person who's talking about things that he doesn't practice. He practices on a very, day-to-day as a service, giving out to people. And of course, Faisal Kiwewa, who has gotten some technical issues, but is on his way, and we would most likely miss him on the show today, but Faisal will definitely be joining us at some point, either by the video or, live in the studio. Jeff, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
At the point we went for a break, you were talking about cities need to pick up from there. I want to refer back to what happened. For what we're seeing that happened in the Fort Portal city, in the, I think that's southeastern, western part of the country, was born or birthed from a conversation that started in 2020. I think in January 2020, there was a Rwenzori, expo that happened in Fort Portal still. It was organized by Operation Wealth Creation. I remember attending that, and I remember being part of the people who were on the sideline conversation about creative industry was quite very heavily recognized. And I think I would like to give a big round of applause to the people in that area. In the, Fort Portal took over as a city and said, you know what, we have to do this. But not all the districts in that area were able to come together to say, this is what we're going to do. But Fort Portal city in itself picked up that, and you can see what has happened. The kingdom has decided that we need something that happens here annually. And that was central government giving a punch to start something. I never saw it happening in other, sector, in other region of the country. Maybe it will happen. But in West Africa, these things are happening. Governments actually pay a lot of attention to, creative arts. I want to take you to another very critical aspect of, what we call cross-sectoral thinking in the creation of, an innovative workforce, like what we're seeing right now. There is a need to invest in the workforce and, for it to have a capable meaning and to be able to meet the challenges and requirements of a rapidly evolving, post-industrial knowledge. We're moving away from those days where, a person you only needed to run machines and that's it. Very few people are making these machines, and then many of us are just here to run the machines. But we're seeing that a more industrial knowledge-based economy that values the non-cognitive skills as much as the technical cognitive skills are now becoming more and more at the forefront. Arts, culture, and creativity in education must be clearly defined, in my view. And in policy designed in order for us to improve the workforce skills suitable for the local economy and the converging, cross-feeding of this. Jeff, we've talked so much about our education system not being able to pull through some of the weight that we're talking about. But we've also discussed how can, cross-sectoral, sectors begin to interact among each other to see that if I don't have the skill developed from school, can I be trained to develop non-technical skills to be able to offer? Many of the art sector feeds a lot on this. Take, for example, this metal work and the decorative metal work in buildings and constructions. They get that a lot from here.